All right, we're just going to go ahead and get this set up momentarily. Apologize if you missed the original viewing of this because the stream did not work. I'm learning how to set this up and work with YouTube Studio, and I did not schedule it correctly and set it up right, and I couldn't change it after it had already been scheduled, so I apologize for that. But we'll get up and running here in a minute. I'm just going to wait to see if we can get additional people coming in here before I get real in-depth in talking. Yes, we've got going here. I'm going to try and get my chat up over on my computer here so I can answer questions as they happen. Well, not as they happen, but so I can see them all. Let's see here. And if anybody misses the beginning part of this or they come in, well, you probably wouldn't be listening to this message, but this will be recorded and posted so it can be reviewed in full after the fact. And I'll try and answer all the questions at the end. Let's see here. Can you turn it up a bit? Let's see if I can. Did that do anything at all to the microphone volume? A little. Let me just see if this makes any difference. All right, is that any different at that point? Check, check. Testing, testing. Much louder, but background noise. Yep, that's kind of the issue. Hello. Serpenta, what do you think? Should we go back to the original one here? Go back. All right. Yeah. Hopefully it can do that. All right. Any better there? We'll try and get started here. Hopefully these 13 people are actually here for this and not just looking for something to do. Better. Yes, better. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with this here so that, because we've got a lot of information to cover and I want to make sure to be able to get it through all of it so that you guys can get all the information that you need. But thank you for tuning in and being introduced to the Ashigaru Armory project. And I wanted to give you a little bit of background about where this project came from and why it exists so that you know a little bit more about what our mission is, what our mission statement is, and what we want to do. This project came about from a lifelong dream of my own to acquire an antique, authentic antique Japanese sword. I've always wanted to have some of that history, even in my youth before I became a practitioner. And later in life, as I became a practitioner, it was just something that I wanted even more to be able to use in its original form or for its original purpose in its original form. About 20 years ago, that was really not in the cards as far as cost was concerned. And most people, I think, would feel like it's not in the cards for them if they are just a practitioner and not an investor or a collector of antiques. If they are a backyard cutter that has been, into the sword for a while and actually wanted to have a real piece. For most of us, what we see available, and speaking about the domestic United States specifically, what we see available to us is typically priced out of our availability range. Not only that, but they tend to be pieces that you wouldn't particularly want to use in the dojo, test cutting practice, and at home, EI, right? They're more of investment pieces. So I set out to try and acquire one and see what that was like. Most people make some mistakes with their first few purchases, and I was no different in that. But I did learn a lot, and in learning a lot, I saw that there was an opportunity to provide something a little different to people like myself that were out there. I've met a lot of you. I do apologize. There might be some background noise if there's quite a few kids here. But I've met so many awesome friends. One of them here watching this right now. And I wanted to try and bring something different to the table. So I did a lot of research, and Ashigaru Armory is what I came up with to be able to provide you all with something that I don't really think is available anywhere else. So I kind of like to talk about the mission statement, what that is, why I'm doing this. And truly it is to provide a source for authentic, what I like to call dojo grade Nihonto, direct from Japan. That's important. They are not sourced from the United States or other parts of the world, which I'll explain why that's important a little bit later. With the Japanese sword arts practitioner in mind. So the types of items that we're looking at are being selected and curated and inspected with the practitioner in mind. Not the investor, not the high-end collector, not the pedigreed paper seeker, right? There's plenty of other sources for that already that do that overlook the things that we would be participating in. So that's where this really comes together. So that is why we exist and what we're trying to do here. I explained how this started about, me trying to find something like that, and then learning the pitfalls of purchasing these swords online, all the extra fees that are basically rolled into them. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And I thought, man, how great would it be to be able to try and cut out all the middlemen that are in these processes, try and minimize all of the fees that get paid through those processes, and be able to bring something that we know to be authentic, direct to other people like myself at the most affordable price point. And that is how we got to where we were today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about as we go into the next step here is, what is dojo grade? Like, what does that mean? What we're looking for is authentic antiques that meet a specific set of requirements. So when I work with my partners in Japan and we're talking with other sellers in the country, we're making sure that these swords meet a certain set of requirements. These requirements are not about investment. They are not about being able to say this was made by some famous smith. They are about the physical sword itself. So that's very important, okay? We look for swords that, at a minimum, are ready for use within the dojo. So, or cutting on your own, EI on your own, whatever that might be. Actual use, not wall hangers. So what does that mean? Functional koshire. So that means we're looking for a tsuka that has ito that is functional. It's not going to fall off. It's not rotted through, and you'll be needing to replace that right away. The tsuka core itself has no to acceptable cracks. What I say by acceptable cracks is sometimes you can get a crack around the underneath the kashira. That's not really going to affect things structurally. But what we're making sure that it doesn't have is, a long split down the length of the tsuka. So we wouldn't bring it in if that was the case. We wouldn't sell it if that was the case, unless it was fully disclosed because we felt for some other reason the sword was of value. The blade is functional. It is not an Iaito blade. It does not have any critical flaws. These blades are real and they are real old, so it is likely that they will have some sort of natural flaws to them. There may be small wares, there may be tiny kizus, there could be some exposure due to over polishing, but it would be minimal and it would be within acceptable tolerances for use on traditional soft targets like tatami. I wouldn't recommend any of these antiques be used for hard targets. I would say anything you feel comfortable cutting with 1060 differentially hardened steel, you should be able to cut with an antique. But again, you have to keep that in mind. Do you want to do that? I think your soft targets would be fine, but I wouldn't risk it on something that a modern T10 sword or spring steel sword or through hardened sword would be better suited to pass through. So we take a look at the blade and we make sure that it has a functional to close to functional edge that might just need some simple honing, right? Nothing that needs a major polish or repair to the edge. Now, sword can have a functional edge but also be out of polish, right? And that is going to affect the final cost of this sword, which would be the level of polish that it's currently in. Just because it's out of polish doesn't mean it's not an awesome sword or a functional sword. It could just be might make that determination if you would want to have it polished at some point in time or not. But we make sure that there aren't any chips on the edges. We make sure that there aren't any damages that way. The swords might have been rust repaired at some point in time. A lot of these swords were not stored properly over the years, so you might see how there has been a repolish done at some point in time, and you can see some staining that was present from rust that was on the top of it. A lot of times there might be places where there was active rust at some point in time and there was a little bit of pitting there, but it's now been deactive and it doesn't have any effect on it functionally. It still works for its intended purpose. Again, we're not looking for art swords here. We're looking for the ability to get an antique that feels unlike anything else on the planet. No reproduction feels like it at all, I can assure you that. And you have that piece of history in your hands that you are now the steward of, and you're now continuing to carry it through time. So that's what we're going for here at a significantly reduced price point than what you would normally expect because of our partners and our logistical line, I guess you could say. So we make sure also that the saya is functional, right? That there aren't any splits in the saya or anything like that that would cause potential injury. Repairs along the seam so it could split. So we're basically making sure that this sword can be used. Now, that is through communication with the original seller, and then once it gets to my partner, we inspect it together through video conferencing. And if there's something that seems amiss or we're not comfortable with, we won't bring it in, and we'll figure something else to do with it at that point. Otherwise, everything looks good there. Sword gets sent to me, and then I prepare it. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means later on here. So most important thing is that these dojo grade swords, they're not designed to be long-term investment pieces. They're not designed to be something that's going to increase in value significantly over time. They're designed to be used, as was their original intended purpose. And by using them responsibly, we honor them, and we continue the legacy, and we continue the history. So the next thing I want to talk about is the types of, I guess we talked about that a little bit right now, the types of products that we sell and how we get them. So currently in the beginning, we will only be dealing with katana. At a later point in time, that might change and we might end up offering wakizashi. We might end up offering tanto at some point in time. But in the beginning, it will be katana, and we're looking for swords, really, if possible, 27-inch nagasa and or longer. If there's something that's really, really cool looking and ultra complete and ultra clean at 26.5 inches, we will bring that in because it makes sense to do so. If you're taking a look in the chat, Bird was our first customer. I sent him my first non-mistake sword, I could say, that I used in class, and it was awesome, and he's quite happy with it. So, and like you said, there was a quick strop. Now, one thing you'll notice, and Bird, you would see this, is we talk about swords that were designed to be used. If there's an area that needs to be stropped, it should be, if the sword was used properly, in the monouchi area, because that's where you would cut, right? So if you see that it needs to be stropped somewhere else, or I would say if I saw that it needed to be stropped somewhere else, that would be a little bit of a sign that something might be somewhat amiss and it wasn't properly taken care of at some point in time. But if it's a little dull in the monouchi area, that means your sword was used. When it was used, I couldn't tell you. How long ago it was used, I couldn't tell you, but it was used. And there's a certain feeling to that as well. So how we acquire them is I work directly with some partners in Japan. We do not work through poor emails back and forth. I picked individuals that I could communicate with very, very fluently and back and forth and directly so that we can really act in a quick manner. I get up at 3 a.m. in the morning at some points in time to be able to do the business with them and get things rolling and say, hey, keep an eye out on this for me, keep an eye out for that for me. And again, by dealing direct with as close as possible to the person who's actually selling the item, we're going to minimize all of the fees that get added onto these before they make it to you. Okay, by the time something hits eBay, so many fees have been added to it and will continue to be added to it. Your mind would be blown on what that sword really should have cost you if you were just standing on the street in Japan in a store somewhere. It's kind of sickening, but it's business, and that's the way that it is, and people have to make a profit. So it gets marked up. You got to mark it up. That's just the way that it works. So we bring those swords in. We take a look at them. I then inspect them before they make their way to you. So let's talk about that. What can you expect from us? What we do when we get those swords in is we've already pre-screened them. We've pre-screened them online when we were looking at them originally from where they were being sold, or we pre-screened them in person at an auction house. Then when they get to the partner, they're taken apart, looked at. We use a blue light to take a look at certain things, because blue light surprisingly can show you some repairs that you might not be able to see with the naked eye. It can show you some cracks in certain areas that you might not be able to see with the naked eye. So we really try and go through them as best as possible before they even come here. When they get to me, I do a very minimal amount of appropriate restoration. Okay, so what I do is I take a look at Makugi. And if the Makugi need to be replaced to be safe, I replace those Makugi, create new ones, put them in there. Things that could be polished up and you would not want to leave patina on it. So things like gold foil on habaki, copper habaki, silver habaki, we'll clean those up. Same thing with seppas, we'll clean those up. If it's iron fittings, we'll clean those up, make sure that there isn't any red active rust present on it. Make sure it's deactive, or we deactivate it, we kill it basically, so it doesn't continue to eat away, since it's a living thing effectively. Shakudo and shibuchi, basically those kind of have to stay the way they are, because they are patinaed. Like that's what they're supposed to be. So it's really the only thing that we wouldn't try and clean up a little bit for you. We really clean the blade of years and years and years and years of choji oil and storage. It's pretty crazy how long that takes before you can wipe that down and not have a residual crud left over on a cloth. So we clean them very well. If there is a loose fit, suka to sword fit, because of an improperly sized tsuba at some point in time, because a lot of these at this price point aren't necessarily going to have themes that tie into each other. You're going to have mismatched themes. That's just the way that it is. But if we need to change something with the seppa, replace seppa out, we'll do that. If we need to change the tsuba out so that it's a proper fit, we'll do that. So the idea is, when you get the sword, there's very, very minimal things that need to be done to it, if anything at all, right? You might have a tsuba that really looks good with it, that kind of slides back and forth, but when you swing it, that's pretty normal. If you swing it, you shouldn't hear any rattling or anything like that. We should have it tightened down. I saw Birds, yours moved a little bit back and forth. That was actually a surprise to me, so I apologize for that. I would have taken care of that if I would have known it did that. But so we'll try, and if we need to replace Sageo, we'll replace Sageo, but include the historical Sageo along with it if it came with one. I have one sword right now that I replaced the Sageo with because the old one was so discolored from being wrapped up for so long. You can kind of see this here, but it's hemp, and it's kind of interesting. So, again, we'd send that with you just as a historical piece. The last thing that we'll do is create a data sheet for you that has all the specifications of the sword on a data sheet, so you have it at a glance. The data sheet will also include anything that the original seller decided to share about that sword. Now, there is a disclaimer that comes with that, and it's a good opportunity for us to move into the next section. We talked about what you can expect from us, and how we're going out of our way, not out of our way, I apologize, how we are taking steps to make sure that what you get fits exactly what we're promoting here and pitching here, for lack of a better word. And what I also want to be clear on is what we don't do, or what we are not. And what that is an appraisal service. I'm not a sword appraiser. I'm not a sword authenticator as far as signature are concerned. I can guarantee the authenticity that the sword is a true Japanese traditionally created sword, and we do this by making sure that the swords only come from Japan, and they have their Torakusho, their registration certificate. Imitation swords do not have this registration certificate, okay, at all. So by having that registration certificate, we have the certification by the government that this is an actual cultural Japanese sword. Now, there could be other things that are on that sword that make their way onto that card that are not factually correct. It could say this blade was signed by Masamune. How much did the blade cost? $1,900. We know that's not true, right? But it's what's on the sword, so it's what made its way to the card. So the card is not a guarantee of anything that's printed on the sword or claimed about the sword. It's simply a guarantee it is a true Japanese sword. So we make sure that all of those have that we have copies of them. We can provide you with copies of them because they're kind of neat. But what we are not going to do is authenticate any claims that are on that card or are on the sword or are made by the original seller, right? So we call that out. We will say, these are the claims made by the original seller about the sword. We can neither confirm nor deny, but we will include them because I think it's important to know from a history standpoint, as well as if you wanted to do your own research and see if you could verify some of those claims. If they're saying the file marks on the Nakago make it seem like it's a Seiki sword, then maybe you start investigating Seiki swords and Seki swords, and you find out if it's true or not. So we're not in the business of doing that. We're not looking for specifically for swords that have NHTK papers or any sort of Shinza papers, NBTHK papers. If what we're looking at has one, that's great, but we're not specifically seeking that out, because if you go research that, they will tell you that that is what changes the value of a sword. And that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're doing, right? So if it happens to have one, and those can be fake too, by the way. If it happens to have one and we are able to get the sword within the price points that we're looking at and meets our requirements, that's fantastic. But we're not going to go seek one out, because it's going to inflate the price, not artificially, but it will inflate the price. So just because it does not have an NBTHK paper or an NTHK paper, that does not mean it's not an authentic sword. It just means it was not sent to Shinza and had someone look at it and tell you, we believe this to be a so on and so forth. And that can even change. And speaking with some of the Japanese partners, some of them don't do it with lower end to middle grade swords, because the opinion changes on the time, and they could say it's one thing at one point and something different at another. So we're not going to be an appraiser. We're not going to tell you this is specifically this. We can't tell you specifically what time period it's from. What I can say is, based on price points and what I've seen, the majority of these swords are going to be Shinto or Shinto blades, which is great. They're still authentic. They're still pre-Meiji restoration. Okay, so that is really what we're not. Okay, is someone that's going to tell you that this sword was made by Bizen Osafune in 1455 and that's 100% accurate. Well, that's what it says on the sword and on the card. That is very true. But if you want to seek that out, you can send it for authentication if you would like. But more than likely, it's probably it's not true because of the price points we're looking at. So that would be Gime, if you're wondering what that is. So how do you participate? What is our business model? Where do you buy one? If you've shopped around for affordable Nihonto before, you would know that they don't last very long. If you've looked at some other sellers, I won't say their names, they will drop a sword on their website, and within literal minutes, I'm talking 2 minutes, that sword's gone and sold out. So by the time you see it in your feed, or by the time it comes up and you go, oh, that's cool, let me go see, sold out, right? So there's tons of people out there that are just willing to scoop these things up instantly. What I'm trying to do is level the playing field a little bit and give people an opportunity more opportunities to be able to get things that we would use and that we would want and that we would like. So rather than just having a website that I end up put something affordable on the website that, could get snatched up instantaneously by the person who has some sort of notification system or something like that. How we're doing this, or how we're going to do this, is through a members model, so to speak. So you may have seen that recently we opened up memberships on the website. There is a content supporter membership, which is a $4.99 membership. This is to help keep the regular content of the channel going. This is to pay for things like targets. This is to pay for things like tatami, so that we could eventually start cutting tatami, because I'm not large enough for this channel really to be monetized in a different way to support it, to keep it going. This is a hobby of mine, the sword reviews and those various videos, and I would really like to keep them going, because you guys have been awesome supporters of that. but I do need a little bit of assistance to be able to keep it going and not do the same thing over and over and over. So there is a basic $4.99 content supporter, which would go directly to the channel for things like targets and camera equipment or things like that. The next level is the Ashigaru Armory member. The Ashigaru Armory member is $9.99. That's the monthly membership on that. What that does is it gives you access to purchase these items. So again, they are not going on a website for sale to the world. Two reasons for that. One, availability and trying to make these available specifically to the followers of the channel, right? I want to pay you guys back in some way, shape, or form through this program. The other reason is fees, and trying to keep fees to a minimum and the pricing down to a minimum. So paying for things like e-commerce on a website and the fees that are associated with e-commerce on the website, right? We're trying to minimize those. So as an Ashigaru member, you will get access to a members only video. This is how we're going to display these swords. So a sword will come in, there will be a video filmed on the sword. This isn't going to be like a review video like I've done before. This is just be a pure non-narrated product video, right? I'm going to try and make the production value on it high so you get good footage on it. The specs of the sword will come up on the video, and then there will be an item number that's going to tell you basically the value of that sword. So for example, you might see, this is sword AA 01-1750, for example, right? 1750 being the value of the sword, and the 01 being just the number in the sequence that we've had in. So all of the members will get a notification that there is a video that is going to drop at a specific date at a specific time. Everybody gets the same notification. So the idea would be is when that video drops, if you're interested at that point in time in purchasing something, you would go and watch the video along with everybody else. At that point, if you decide that that's something that you would want to acquire, you would send ashigaruarmory@gmail.com an email, and you would say, this is so-and-so, I would like to acquire this sword. We would service those emails in the order in which they came in, because that's fair. So the first email that came in, we would reach out to that customer, talk about how that would look out or how that would work out. If for some reason they decide to pass, we would just move to the next one. That's something that you can't get on those other websites. It's something that those other websites and sellers will not do for you, okay? Or what they will do is they'll tell you to send them the money in advance, and they'll hold on to it. And then when something comes along that's hopefully somewhat like what you'd want, they'll spend your money on it, whether you see it or not, and that's what you get. And that's not what I want to do. So I want it to be fair, and I want people to have an equal opportunity. And there will be plenty of these. So if you end up missing one, you had trust me, a much better chance than on any of the other sources, but there will be another one. So the members video drops, you get to watch the review of it. You would send the email, you would say you were interested, and then we would work through that. Payment, how that's done, we would do that through PayPal. We could do it a couple of different ways. It just depends on how few fees you would want to be included in it at all. So we have no issue with a true PayPal invoice, right? If you feel you want the protection behind an actual PayPal business invoice, we absolutely could do that. That gives us the ability to take things like Afterpay. I don't think PayPal uses Afterpay as the term, but PayPal has some payment plans that you would be able to use with that. PayPal credit cards, debit cards, credit cards, those types of things. Depending on the method of payment would determine what fee increases the cost of the item. We're not looking to make any profit off of the fee. We would just want it to be wiped out, right? Because we don't want it to cost us any more money. If you want it at the lowest possible price point, you can send it through friends and family. We can still create an invoice for you outside of PayPal so that you have that available as a record. But through friends and family, of course, gets around more fees, so we wouldn't need to increase the value of that at all. So basically through PayPal, almost any method of payment would be able to be used in one way, shape, or form or another. So that means bank accounts, that means debit cards, credit cards, special financing programs that PayPal has to offer, PayPal account balances, PayPal credit cards. So that should really take care of all of that stuff. The third membership level, or I should say second Ashigaru Armory membership level, is the Armory Founder. That's maybe for some of the more hardcore people that are probably thinking about purchasing more than one. That is $14.99. What that does is it allows you to specify something that you are looking for. So rather than wait for a video to drop and take a look at it and look at specs and say, hey, that's kind of close to what I want, you could tell us what you're looking for, and we will try and find that. And we will try and find that without taking anything up front from you. If we find something that looks like it's going to fit your requirements, we'd send you the available photos of it to see if that's something that you would like. If it is something that you would like, there would probably be a small deposit of some sort to be able to get that process up and running. But we would then work on bringing in that sword specifically for you. And we would work directly with you through that process so you knew exactly what to expect. So if you specifically were looking for something with a 29-inch Nagasa and an 11-inch Tsuka, it's going to be hard to find, but it's out there, and we would be upfront with you about what we think that those would normally cost, because it could put us outside of the normal cost range of things that we're trying to carry, which is anywhere between $1,000 for a complete sword up to around the $2,700 to $3,000 price range, but mostly occurring within the $1,500 and $2,200 price range. That's really the sweet spot where you can get a lot for your money. But as a founder, we can find things for you. So you now basically have I don't want to call it a broker or something like that, because it's not really what it is, but we could locate things for you that you're looking for specifically, and at least be able to share you pictures up front and say, is this what you're looking for? No? Okay, we'll move on. Before, hey, I spent your money. This is what you want, right? No, not at all. Okay, well, it's what you've got because I bought it and I spent your money to buy it. So that's how that's going to work. In the future, there may be different business models, but right now, even if this became an extremely successful venture, I think this is the best way to do it, because it's fair and everybody has a chance at that base $9.99 membership level, right? Everybody that's in that for something that's less than the cost of Hulu, right? Or some other streaming service a month, you could potentially get something that would cost you $2,900 on eBay for $1,500. And I don't know, for me, that's a big deal. It was a big deal because it's what started this. As a founder, do it to your heart's content, right? And we'll just keep going as long as you need stuff. If you're not a member, you obviously don't see the videos, so you wouldn't really have anything to buy. So we talked a little bit about how it's different from other sources. You don't need to be watching your phone all the time to see if your favorite seller has something that's available, which I've done, and that sucks. And you can just say, look, there's a new video coming. I'll make sure I'm available at that time frame, and we'll see if it's something that I want. Next steps, what'll be happening next here is we have incoming inventory right now. So there's, let's see, I think we have one ready to go in stock right now. We have 2 en route right now, 1 on hold, another one in transit to our partner. So we're going to have about 5 swords ready to go here in the next 2-3 weeks. So the first step now would be acquiring members to be able to offer these 2. I would say if you are ready to go, if you're watching this and you're ready to go and you're interested, you could sign up for that right away, because we should have, like I said, I'm looking at one right now. We should have some stuff available here within the next week or 2. It's going to be tough because some of these I'm going to want to keep as they come in, but I can't. And then shortly after we get rolling with the merchandise coming in and going out, there will be a website. There will be an AshigaruArmory.com, but the website's really just to give details about who we are, what we do, why we do it, basically the exact same things we've went over in this video, as well as a gallery of past sold items. So the gallery is not going to show things for sale. It's just going to show things that we have carried. Because again, I'm trying to direct people to this program here to avoid some of the e-commerce fees and things like that. Talking about fees, to give you an idea on how many times an item that you might buy on eBay has been marked up, there's going to be a lot of these swords are bought on auction at either an auction house that happens every couple of weeks or from a local auction, like Yahoo Auctions Japan or whatnot. So in an auction service, there's an auction service fee. So you're going to have a percentage of the transaction right there to the person who is going to be selling it to you through eBay potentially. So you've got the original sword price, whatever it got to, then you've got the fee for the auction house price. And then, in many instances, a shipping fee that gets associated whereas it gets to the seller. So now the original price of what that sword should have been worth has been increased. Bird asked if I would be selling fittings. Is that correct? If I would be possibly selling fittings. I know I said I'd save the Q&A to the end, but I think that was a good question since we were talking about what I'm selling. I would like to, yes. I don't quite know what that's going to look like yet. Right now I'm bringing in kind of replacement parts in case I need to tighten something up. So I'm looking at lots of habaki, lots of seppa to get various shapes and sizes. I might also do lots of tsuba, but I would like to bring in various different types of tsuba, maybe various types of fuchikashira. What I will say though is it's all going to still be in the same theme. It's going to be in that Ashigaru, that everyday kind of individual theme, right? Ashigaru light foot soldier. I forgot to talk about this. The everyday man, right? Conscript farmers that became a formidable force that were eventually turned into the lowest rank of the samurai. So we're not daimyo here. We're not high-level retainers, right? We're looking for affordable, functional things. So the fittings that I would be in would be, iron fittings, very simple. There's probably going to be some fukurin that would make it in there, a little bit of inlay, but I would try and keep the price points fixed at a certain level so that it's something that you really can't get anywhere else. So yes, I do plan on doing that. Back to ADHD. So I forgot what I was talking about before that. So we were talking about the website and the gallery on there. Oh yes, and fees. So you'd have your sword sold to the person who's going to sell it to you. They now have to increase the cost of it to cover the auction house fees, the shipping to them. Now they're going to list it on eBay. They're going to have to roll in those previous fees plus the 13% eBay seller's fee, right? So now you've got, I mean, probably the equivalent of a 25% markup on this from what the sword originally cost. If you're talking something that's $1,500, that's a significant amount of money. And then they have to think, well, if I'm offering the buyer PayPal, right? PayPal's going to charge me for that transaction as well. So now I have to add an additional 3% just in case they choose to use a method of payment that I'm going to get charged extra for. Now your 25% is 27%. So you could see how very, very quickly this all could get added up, right? By doing what we're doing in the way in which we're doing it, you know, there's very, very minimal add-ons, right? There's still going to be an auction house commission at some point in time. There's still going to be a shipping fee at some point in time, but it's not going to be a 30% markup. And I am not kidding you when what we see being sold direct to us in America from eBay and various places, there's 30 to 40 and in some instances a 50% markup from what that originally would have cost or what it was originally worth. That is why we are doing what we are doing. So those are the plan. That's the plan. Those are the steps. We can do it in a way in which you're comfortable with as far as a payment protection is concerned, or we can do it as cost effective as possible, through friends and family, still with accompanying invoices, just so that you have something on paper that says I bought this and I paid this for it, right? So I'll kind of, before we go into any sort of question and answer, it looks like I've at least got 5 of you here. I haven't seen who those are other than, oh, hey, cool. We got Alex in here, so that's awesome. So the membership is open now. I did sell the first sword outside of that program because it was really kind of a test run of is this going to work? Is what I have at the price points that we're looking at going to work? I think that was a resounding yes on both my side and on our first purchaser's side. We tested the Postal Service. The Postal Service, while not super speedy, it does have some advantages. I prefer to use USPS because it allows me to ensure the value of the sword for its real value and not charge an arm and a leg for it. So the sword that we shipped out had a value of I think it was $18.50, I believe. We were able to get that sword shipped and have it fully insured at $18.50 for, I think, $65. That's not, I apologize for the noise in the background. That's not bad for me at all. If I would have done that through UPS, it would have been insane, and they don't insure it in the way that the Postal Service does, right? So you would not have got full value back for it. So everything looks like it's going to work out. The partnership is working fantastic in Japan. We're acquiring, there's probably more swords we could get than we have the ability to move at this point in time. But there's a wide range of varying quality and configurations. It's really fantastic and exciting to be able to offer these to you guys. So I will end that there. I'm going to open it up to any sort of questions. If anybody who is still currently watching has any sort of questions about the program or the company or what we're doing, what we're getting, if we can get, if we plan on getting something else, just like Bird asked about fittings. I think I'd like to even bring in things like antique sword pillows, antique sword bags, various things like that, just to be able to have them as options for something different. I'm going to take full advantage of having a direct connection to the source and bring in whatever I can. It just might take a little bit of time to diversify from what is obviously going to work out the best. So are there any, do we have any questions for any of the current viewers? From any of the current viewers? Doesn't look like it. All right. Well, I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to those of you who tuned into this and watched it live. I know it was a lot of information, but because there isn't a physical website just up yet to be able to have, how dare you hurt my wallet? So, I mean, you have no idea. You have no idea. Trust me, it's bad. And like I said, everyone that I find, I pick it because I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. I mean, every one I want. I haven't seen anything that we're bringing in that I wasn't excited about coming in. So it's gonna be really hard for me to put it out and put it on the rack and let you guys have it. But I'm telling you, when you see what we're gonna have available for you, and when you see at the price points at which it is available, you're gonna go, oh, okay. So I don't know if I can have just one of these. So again, I really appreciate all of you tuning in to the actual live showing of this. I will get this hopefully hosted if I can. I recorded it on my cell phone, so I don't know how that will work. If you have any questions about anything that we went over today, feel free to, you could direct message me on Instagram at StudioGDT. You can ask questions on some of the posts here on the YouTube channel, or you can just email me directly at Ashigaru, Ashigaru Armory at gmail.com. So Bird asks, what about good old-fashioned check or money order? I would be totally fine with a money order. I'd be a little wary about a personal check unless the person sending the personal check would, I don't have any sort of like banking protection since I'm not large, right? So I would need that check to be cashed before I would be able to send the product. Otherwise, the product's out there in the mail, and then I would run the risk of a check getting bounced. But I wouldn't have any issue with someone mailing me a money order, or if someone felt comfortable with it and they wanted to do a Zelle transfer or something like that, that's fine too. I wanted to just be able to offer traditional business offerings through invoicing for people that would want to take advantage of something like a PayPal payment dispute. Not that I would ever expect that to happen, but it's more for the comfort of the purchaser. I want them to be comfortable doing it. Bird, you've already bought a sword from me, so you're good, right? You could. I'd take a money order from you all day long, right? So let's see. You still happy with the sword? I am. I both the two drum swords that I have. I don't have any problems with. They're great swords. That's the extent of my personal experience with them. I know quite a few people who I know have also purchased from them and who have been very happy with them as well. But any questions about that, I definitely can answer outside of this review about the Nihonto. One thing I will see if I can show real quick. So the data sheets that you'll receive look like, they're going to look similar to this. They're really old school. I like to do kind of hand, personal touch type things. So you're going to get a lot of like, call it hipster stuff if you want or whatever, right? But I'm gonna show you that put a lot of care into this and get you all the information you need and would want to have. So you'll get kind of like a little mini care package that comes with it, with a note from myself, as well as the data sheet and any sort of invoice, should you have wished to take the invoice route, right? So I think we've pretty much covered everything. Jabe, sorry you missed it. I've just ran an hour long, so I've definitely talked about Dutch X Paper second edition, baby. I hope these comments show up in the video. Otherwise, people are going to wonder what I'm talking about here. But yes, if there's any questions I can answer, please feel free to email me at Ashigaru Armory.com, and I'm sorry, Ashigaru Armory@gmail.com. Sorry. But yep, we have lots of stuff coming in right now, and basically the minute we sell something, we're looking at replacing it and just keeping it going. Right now, it could be one sword. Could be one sword every 2-3 weeks or so, or maybe even one sword a month, just in the beginning while we're getting in the line. But I mean, ideally, I have them as quickly as I can process them and turn them around. So I know in your brain you might think, oh man, I'm going to be a member to this to gain access to it, and it's going to be $10, $10 a month to be able to purchase one of these when they drop. So I want to try and give you as many opportunities to be able to do that as possible. We just got to get started first. So again, thank you to Bird for helping us get this kick started. And we're going to get ready to drop something here real soon. So I will wrap this up. Again, thank you, everyone, for making this a possibility. And I hope to see you in the participants, or I guess in the viewers of the first members only drop. Have a great day, everybody.